Greetings, Vammers. How are you doing today? David J.G. Doyle here, with my good friend Cody McCullough, aka That Damn Cynic.
How you doing, everybody?
This will be our first Pupcast, an acronym for Passionate Unscripted Podcasts. Patent pending.
Yeah, patent pending.
And our very first one is about, of course, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
And what makes this one so special is that it's the first one to have full-on voice acting. Not counting Hyrule Warriors, where that one guy was with the narrator, but this is the first time we got like full-on voice acting, we got a true cinematic experience going on right here, and I think that's pretty intense, don't you?
Very. And I am beyond curious, but from what I've seen in the trailer so far, both the Japanese and English, it is impressive. Very impressive, and I'm actually very excited just for that alone.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna pick something up from the English trailer here for a sec. The first time I actually heard someone speak, it was the narrator, it sounded like an old woman pretending to be an old lady. I'm like, oh, no, this is not how you give us your first impression. You sound like a young woman trying to sound old, oh god. And then I heard the rest of the cast. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this seems pretty tight. I'm okay with this.
I'm especially okay with Zelda.
Oh, yes!
Wow, that was great.
I know, right? She sounds so distinguished, so proper. She sounds just like you would think a princess would sound.
I'll say. And there are some people already out there saying, it's not as good as the Japanese. The only difference, really, between the Japanese and English version, three things. One, obviously the language.
Oh, duh.
Two, just the vocal tone. And three, just the way Zelda cries. In the English version, she's a little bit more subdued, whereas the Japanese, she full-on wails.
Which I understand, because when I watched it again recently, I noticed that, the character was wailing, but, the actor was like, ooh, just softly crying, and I can see why some people might find that kind of disorienting. Because, the crying does not represent what's on the screen. So, yeah, I could see how when the Japanese version was instructed to wail. That's something I hope they personally fix later down the road when it concerns the English version. I'm hoping Nintendo America is taking notes. It's like, oh, whoops, we messed that up. Okay, whoever's voicing English Zelda, get back in here. We need you to do this one line again.
Yeah, but in the end, that's more of a nitpick. But I also can't help but feel that's actually not the take for that particular line, if that makes sense. I've seen them do that before.
Oh, probably.
But that's neither here nor there. Right now, though, I'm just wondering who the VAs could be. Every time I hear that English Zelda, I just can't help but wonder if it's the same woman who voiced Bayonetta.
I wonder about that. But there's something I noticed about Nintendo's cast choices in general, even when it comes to more reprehensible games like Metroid Other M, yeah, I didn't like it either. They had a voice cast that no one's ever heard before. In fact, I can't even find any of their prior credits.
Yeah, Nintendo has the focus to go mostly for stage actors.
Really?
They do go for voice actors, yeah, here and there. But usually just for recurring roles, such as in Nintendo's Smash Brothers game, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the most left-field casting choices you'll ever see. But man, do they usually get it right.
Oh yeah, usually they do, I feel. I just, as far as I knew up until now, I always figured they just had their own little talent pool somewhere.
Apparently they mix and match. I remember hearing about this with Xander Mobus' interview when he was the voice of the Master Hand and Crazy Hand narrator. Apparently Nintendo has this sort of cycle that goes on. They go through stage actors, but they're also not afraid to go for the properly trained voice actors.
Oh, well, that's good, I suppose. Keep your options open and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just want to make one little side note for people who are gonna bring it up. When we mentioned that this is the first Zelda game with full-on voice acting, I just want to make a little side note here. The CDI games do not count. So don't even bring it up.
Those friggin' abominations.
I don't know. I personally find the games themselves to be a mixed bag. I like the music, and not every idea they had was terrible. Just Most of them were.
How vicious.
Honestly, though, I do like the music. That's, like, one thing I actually do like about the games.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It's like a law that Legend of Zelda music cannot be bad.
No, now you've challenged me into thinking that there's one Zelda game in particular that was forgettable in the slightest. Now you got me thinking about it.
I'm trying to think. Well, besides the CDI games, I don't think there was ever truly a bad Zelda games. There were just some that were weaker than others.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I don't like Skyward Sword as a game, but as a story, I think it's one of the stronger ones. For sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. But it did have also one of the best boss battles of all time. Colossus.
I didn't get that far.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
I got so bored with the game. What did I do last? Oh, Jesus, I don't even remember. It had something to do with Groose following me around or some shit. I don't know.
It actually gets really good after that, like really good. And Colossus...
I hear that.
And Colossus is one of the most freaky boss battles. It's like this giant evil Buddha statue, and every time it raises its arm to a strike, it makes this creepiest sound.
Really?
Really. I'll just ask you to look it up, or at least try to play through that, man, because just watching that alone.
Well, if I ever get another Wii Motion Plus, I'll look into it. I still have the game sitting on my shelf, so...
Yeah. But there's one thing about this Zelda game which I don't know what to make of the Switch so far.
You mean about how it only has 3 launch titles? One of which should have become free with the game anyway, and the other is just a friggin' basketball game?
Yeah, I don't understand it either, but the other one is Breath of the Wild, and that is actually a great idea.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Breath of the Wild will move units. But still, it's a pretty bad idea to have only 3 launch titles for your system that you're already taking a gamble on.
I'll say. Especially with... Why are they going to release Skyrim so late?
Actually, funny thing, I actually asked someone else about that, and they actually made a good point. They probably didn't want Skyrim to interfere with the sales of Breath of the Wild, since both are so similar in concept. You know, the whole open world thing?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. It's a marketing strategy.
Exactly. Like, I was just as confused as you were until someone brought that up with me. It's like, that actually makes sense. But, on the other hand, it's like, what, 6 months down the road?
Yeah, perhaps, but that'd be enough time.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let's see. It was like fall 2017. It's gonna be out in March, so I'd say maybe 4 months, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be enough time for when people finally had enough of Breath of the Wild, if that's even going to be a thing. Just looking at the gameplay, it's apparently going to be much larger than Skyrim, and looking at the game maps from what I can see, it's arguably the largest game ever made.
Some people are saying that the map is actually 4 times larger than Skyrim. I could have that number wrong. Let me just double check that right quick.
Oh yeah? I've heard some people say that it's 9 times the size of Skyrim.
Okay, now we're just going into rumor territory now.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Yeah. Oh wait, let's see. Breath of the Wild is 12 times the size of Twilight Princess. So, take that for what it's worth, I guess.
That's actually pretty big because Twilight Princess was rather massive for what it was worth.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Well, anyway, I'm honestly more concerned about the Nintendo Switch's hardware, though. Like, I have friends who get really annoyed at me every time I bring this up, but Breath of the Wild, when docked, runs at natively 900p at 30 frames per second. Now, since this system is going to be going up against the PS4 and the Xbox One, that kind of concerns me. Now, some people are going to tell me, oh, specs don't matter. Yeah, it does, especially when it concerns third-party content.
Yeah, and I'm wondering just what Skyrim will look like. Nintendo's going to have to do something really clever to pull that off. Breath of the Wild looks gorgeous as of right now.
Oh, for sure. For sure, yes.
Their Nintendo games are going to look gorgeous. But the third-party content, I am cautiously optimistic.
Well, I actually came across some new information. You're familiar with Dragon Quest Heroes, right?
Yes.
Well, both Dragon Quest 11, Dragon Quest Heroes, and Heroes 2 is coming to the Switch. And initially, I was super excited for this because I figured, yay, the Switch can be my Dragon Quest machine! Woo! And then, but here's the thing about Dragon Quest Heroes 2. It's already out on Japan on the PS4. And I recently saw some comparison shots of Dragon Quest Heroes 2 on a docked Switch and the PS4. It's the exact same scene with the exact same character, and there's a few big differences. Not just the graphics either. Both pictures are just one character sitting in front of a portal with lights coming out of it. In the Switch version, the lights are not there, and the portal's a little more subdued. Also, there's windows shining through. The windows do not have the lights going through in the Switch version. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm a little concerned about this now.
Yeah, that's it. What is going on? I understand that there is a lot of new technology here, but even so.
Well, it might have something to do with Nintendo wanting to make the system more affordable. And don't get me wrong, I think they've done a pretty good job of that, at least for the Americans anyway. $300, you can't beat that.
No, definitely not.
But I think they also might be selling the system at a loss. That's why, the accessories are so darned expensive. Who's gonna pay, like, $70 for a controller? Here in Canada, that's $90. No one's gonna pay $90 for a controller. I can see third-party controllers selling pretty well at this point.
Well, yeah, however, PlayStation 4 controllers here in Australia, some of them go up to $80.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We're talking about countries that's not used to having to spend that amount. And not to mention, you still have other options. Okay, I could get a PS4 and spend $60 on it if I need a new controller. Or I could get a Switch, and if I need an extra controller, I shell out an extra $20. Nah, and you know what? That's another thing. If you're not interested in Nintendo games, you have no interest in getting the Switch. I mean, yeah, okay, the prospect of taking Skyrim with you on the go sounds nice and all, but they're not gonna care enough. They're like, I got Skyrim on my PS4 or my PC, why? What's really the point of having it on the go?
Well, they're going to have to do something to make it worth the money, or definitely worth the time.
Well, I'm not gonna say Nintendo's gone. I'm not gonna say Nintendo's, bit the dust yet. I'm willing to wait and see what happens. Maybe they can pull one out of their asses, but I, too, am cautiously optimistic. Maybe even to a lesser extent than you are. And I just want to make this point very clear.
More than fair. But who knows, maybe they'll make a Nintendo Switch like a Super Switch down the track, where it can actually play up to 2K. But we're going to have to wait and see, because the Switch, as impressive as it looks overall, it's still, obviously, an experiment.
Oh, for sure. And, look, I also want to make this point very clear. If Nintendo fails with the Switch, they're done. I don't care how much money they have in the bank. The brand will be broken beyond repair, and we're going to be seeing the next Zelda game on the PS4.
Which would be a sad day for all of us, really.
Well, for us who grew up with a Nintendo, but let's take a minute and put ourselves in the shoes of people who grew up with the Sega Genesis. When they found out that the Dreamcast tanked, and that their beloved Sonic franchise was being moved to the GameCube.
Yeah, the problem was Sega just kept making bad game after bad game, and the few good games that they had were actually great games. Phantasy Star, the first Soul Calibur. They just weren't well promoted.
Sega didn't make that. Sega didn't make Soul Calibur.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, they were obviously going to tank just simply because, well, their games just weren't that crash hot. Whereas the GameCube, on the other hand, and especially the 64, you had almost nothing but masterpiece after masterpiece.
Oh yeah, for sure, but the hardware was still an issue. See, my problem with Nintendo is that they seem to keep intentionally handicapping themselves. And I feel that if they just made a console that was comparable to the competition, they would win. They would do very, very well. I mean, they have the best IPs in gaming, no matter how you may feel about them. And if they made a console comparable to the competition, they would get that third-party support. They would be successful. It would be like the NES and the Super Nintendo days. In fact, that's what made them successful. They had the superior hardware. And that's why third parties went to them, despite having to put up with Nintendo's bullshit about censorship and, having to pay $10 for every cart that they had to get through them. Those third-party companies put up with that shit because they were the best. They were the go-to console.
Then along came the PlayStation. Then along came the Xbox.
Oh yeah. Yep, for sure. Because the competition started, copying that model and making better decisions than them. And people wonder why the Wii U failed. I'm not going to blame this solely on the inferior hardware. I'm also going to blame it on the shitty marketing and, of course, the lack of third-party support. It's like Nintendo didn't even think that was important. Oh, but Bayonetta 2! Yeah, okay, one game. One or two games that had third-party support. I'm sorry, that's not enough. You need all the third-party support you can get, and the thing that bothered me is that Nintendo didn't seem to make it a priority. They're doing it now, don't get me wrong, they're doing it now with the Switch. They're trying to, reach out to third-party developers, they're trying to say, okay, what do you want from our console? That's a good move, that's good, that means they're trying. But we still gotta wait and see what happens.
Yeah, will it be too little or too late, or will they make the comeback of the video game century?
Only time will tell!
But I know one thing that'll be a definite success, and that is Breath of the Wild. Good lord.
Oh yeah, for sure. It looks great. I don't see a single thing wrong with Breath of the Wild, except for maybe that one part where Zelda should be wailing, but instead she weeped.
Yeah. But if that's the only nitpick we can find, then that's pretty much scraping through the bottom of the barrel.
For sure.
So, Vammers, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild will be the great big game changers of video games, or do you think this will tank Nintendo for good?
Leave your comments below, and, hey, have a good day.
Indeedy do. I'm David J.G. Doyle.
And I'm Cody McCullough.
Signing off, and thanking you.
Bye.